Thank you. As chairman of the Judiciary Committee, it's my honor to speak on the floor about this nomination, which I think is historic in many fashions, all positive from my point of view. We have before the committee the nomination of Judge Barrett, who currently sits on the 7th Judicial Circuit. She is one of the most impressive people I've ever met. 2 days of hearings, answering every question thrown to her with grace and judicial demeanor, I think, should be the gold standard for every other nominee. But I want to thank my staff, Lee Holmes, the director. Lee's done such a great job of, the Judiciary Committee has done a lot of things, some contentious, some not, but I want to thank Lee for shepherding this nomination and the fine work he's done. Mike Fragozio, Mike, I got your first name right anyway, just outstanding. You've done a terrific job. The permanent nominations unit for the Judiciary Committee includes Laura Miller, Raja Churchill, Tim Rodriguez, Watson Horner, Akil, Ragasekar, don't want to butcher your name. All have worked incredibly hard for 135 Article III judges, not just this one. In addition, Lucas Croslow joined my staff to lead the team of special counsels assisting with the Barrett nomination. That included Sid D-A-D-H-I-C-H, Jay Favell, Abby Holstein, Eric Palmer, Robert Smith. They went through the entire record presented by Judge Barrett to make sure we would be prepared for the confirmation process. Law clerks Matt Simpson, Emily Hall, Megan Karen, and Peter Singal. I'd like to thank the Judiciary Committee's press secretary, Taylor Reed, did a great job, Taylor, along with George Hartzman, as well as by our Deputy Staff Director, Joe Keeley. Bottom line, all of them worked really hard. You made history. You should be proud. You can tell your grandkids about all this. Well done. To my Democratic colleagues, I know you didn't like what we did, but I do appreciate the way you conducted yourself in the hearing. It wasn't a circus. I think you challenged the judge appropriately during her time. We had 4 days of hearings. We heard from a variety of people about Judge Barrett. In terms of the process, it was well within what we've done in the past. Every Judiciary Committee markup regarding a Supreme Court justice, we've done the same thing. First day is opening statements, 2 days of questions, and the final day input from outside groups, and that's what we're able to do here. So she went through the process like every other nominee since I've been here. But let me just say this to my Democratic colleagues. It's not about the process. You find ways to make sure that most of you can't vote for anybody we nominate. And it really does break my heart. Robert, 78-22. That was sort of the norm. I think Alito got 96 and Ginsburg got 97. Maybe I got the numbers right. I can't remember who got what, but one got 96, one got 97. Used not to be this way, Senator Sullivan. Used to be different. We looked at the qualifications, said, okay, you're good to go. You're a person of integrity. You're smart. You're well-rounded. You're knowledgeable in the law. You may have a different philosophy than I have, but we understand elections matter. And everybody accepted the election outcome. Those days are over. Absolutely, completely over, destroyed. There's nobody any Republican president can ever nominate, I think, is not going to face a hard time. That's too bad. That's the way it is. Alito, 58-42. Judge Alito, well known on our side of the aisle, the kind of person you'd be looking at to promote to the Supreme Court. When President Bush nominated him, well within the mainstream. Roberts Alito, well known in the conservative world of being very bright Court of Appeals judges that any Republican president would be looking at to put on the court if they ever had an opportunity. No difference between Alito and Roberts, but Alito went through hell, but he made it and he got 58 votes. So then along comes President Obama. He gets 2 picks, Sotomayor, 68 votes to 31. I think she deserved more, but 68 is pretty darn good. I was glad to vote for her. I saw that she was qualified. Then we had Elena Kagan, 63 votes. So you can see the trend here. Both of Obama nominees, 68-63. And I thought Elena Kagan was highly qualified. different judicial philosophy. She was a dean of law school at Harvard, but worked for the Solicitor General's office. Both of them have been with the liberal side of the court most every case, but not all. I'm not surprised with the way they've decided cases. I think they're tremendously well qualified women, should be sitting on the court. That's exactly who you would expect a Democrat president to pick, Sotomayor and Kagan. So now we come back. Trump wins. Nobody thought he would win, including me. I voted for somebody in 2016. I wouldn't know if he walked through the door, Evan McMullen. I think I met him once. I had my challenge for President Trump during the 2016 primary. He beat me like a drum. I accepted my defeat. I've been trying to help him ever since, and I think he's done a really good job of sending to the Senate highly qualified judges. He's gotten input from a lot of different people, the Federalist Society, you name it, a lot of different people. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have one thing in common. They were in my top 3 recommendations. Any Republican president looking to nominate somebody to the Supreme Court would be looking at Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. These are not exotic picks. They're in the mold of Sotomayor and Kagan in terms of qualifications. So what happened? Gorsuch was the first attempt at a partisan filibuster. We had 3 votes to get 60, and we couldn't, so we changed the rules for the Supreme Court like they changed the rules in 2013 for the District Court and Court of Appeals. If we had not, Gorsuch wouldn't be on the court, and to say he's not qualified is a joke, is an insult to him, and says more about you than it does Judge Gorsuch. If you can't see he's qualified, you're blinded by your hatred of Trump. So he made it, but we had to change the rules. Hated to do it, but had to do it, because in any other time, Gorsuch would have gotten the same type votes as Roberts, because he's just highly qualified. Then comes along Kavanaugh. Nothing about process there. There's no process argument. Right at the very end, the last day of the hearing, when we thought it was all over, you give us a letter that you'd had for weeks, an allegation against the judge. It'd been nice to share it with him so he could tell his side of the story, but you chose not to do that. You had it pre-cooked with the press outlets, and everything blew up. So all of us on the committee had to decide what to do. I sat down with Senator Flake and Senator Collins, and we felt like the allegations had to be heard. They're made. And I know a lot of people on our side thought it was unfair, dirty pool, but we had the opportunity to have the hearing. And the rest is history. It was high drama. All I can say that something happened to the person who accused Judge Kavanaugh, but I don't believe Judge Kavanaugh had anything to do with it. This was a party in high school. Dr. Ford couldn't remember where it was, who was there. The people that were said to be there said they don't remember anything like it happened. Judge Kavanaugh hasn't lived a life like being described. He was accused by 4 or 5 people. 3 of them actually made it up. I hope some of them go to jail for lying to the committee and the country. And they were trying to make him a rapist and drugging women in high school. And what was his annual all about? It was the most sickening episode in my time in the Senate. They were hell-bent on destroying this guy's life based on a bunch of manufactured lies and evidence that wouldn't get you out of the batter's box in any court of law in the land. And here we are, 50 to 48. And what I saw there was a turning point for me. We cannot continue to do this. You're going to drive good people away, and I'm hoping that the Barrett hearings, which were far more civil, far more traditional, will be a turning point. Because I don't know who the next president will be, but there'll be an opening, I'm sure, in the court. I'm hoping that the next hearing is more like Barrett and less like Kavanaugh, no matter who wins. Now, Barrett, I understand the concern about the process. This is the latest we've ever confirmed somebody. You've heard all the arguments about when the presidents of one party and the senates of a different party. You've had one confirmation in 100-something years that most of the time when the presidents of the same party as the Senate, they go through. I understand. The bottom line is we gave her the same type hearing that Alito, Sotomayor, Kagan, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh had. My Democratic colleagues showed up at the hearing. They participated. They pushed her hard, but I don't think they went across the line. They decided not to show up the markup. I hate that, but that's the way it is. I would like to spend a few minutes talking about the person who's going on the court in about an hour. If you're looking for somebody that a Republican would be picking, regardless of the process, it would be Judge Barrett. She would be on anybody's list. And I listened to Senator Durbin, who is a good friend, and we'll work on whatever comes our way after the election. I find that he's somebody you can work on hard things like immigration with, but his description of Judge Barrett simply doesn't pass scrutiny. Trying to make a character of this person that doesn't exist. There's nothing exotic about Judge Barrett. She's very mainstream in our world. All I can say is that after 2 days of hearings, the American people, by 51%, which is pretty hard to figure in this country, you get 51% agreement on anything, felt like she should be going on the court. So here's what Dean O'Hara said, Dean of Notre Dame Law School, who hired Amy Barrett to be a professor at Notre Dame. I have only communicated with this august committee on 2 occasions. The first was 10 years ago when I wrote a strong letter in support of now Justice Elena Kagan, whose term as Dean of Harvard Law School overlapped with my own. The second is today, introducing and endorsing Amy Coney Barrett in equally strong terms. Some might find these recommendations to be in juxtaposition, but I find them entirely consistent. And to anybody wondering about Judge Barrett, I would highly recommend that you look at the ABA's recommendations and the process they used to find her well qualified. Not one person uttered a negative word about her character, according to the ABA. Someone said to the ABA, the myth is real. She is a staggering academic mind. She is incredibly honest and forthright. She's exactly who you think she is. Nothing about her is fake. She is good, she's decent, she's selfless, she's sincere. She's an exemplary of a living and integrated life. The standing committee would have been hard-pressed to come up with any conclusion other than that Judge Barrett has demonstrated professional competence that is exceptional. Then they had a committee to look at her writings, all of her writings. They accepted input from 944 people that she's interacted in her professional life, not one negative comment. So forget about what politicians say about Judge Barrett. Forget about what people who don't recognize President Trump as being a legitimate president say about Judge Barrett. Forget about what I say if you want to. Look at what people who work with her said that are in the law business, that know her individually, have worked with her as a judge, as a professor, and they conclude without any doubt she is one of the most gifted people to ever be nominated to the Supreme Court. There's nothing exotic about Judge Barrett. She's going on to the court in about an hour. That's exactly where she needs to be. She's the type person who's lived a life worthy of being nominated. She's the type person that's worthy of receiving a large vote in the Senate, but she won't get it. She's not going to get one Democratic vote. And you're right off to the process if you want to. That's fine. But what about the others? All I can say is that we're going to have an election here in about a week. And whatever happens, I'm going to acknowledge the winner when it's all said and done. It may go to the Supreme Court. I don't know. But there'll be a day that we know who won. And I'm going to accept those results, and I'm going to do with the next president what I've tried to do with this one and every other one. Try to find a way forward on things that are hard, keep the country moving forward. So to the majority leader and the minority leader, it's a tough place around here now. This too shall pass. But this is about Judge Barrett. This is about her time, her moment. She's done everything you would expect of her. She's exceeded every challenge put in her way. She's impressed everybody she's worked with. She has impressed the country. She's going onto the court because that's where she deserves to be. As to us in the Senate, maybe down the road we can get back to the way we used to be. I don't know, but I do know this. There's nothing exotic about Judge Barrett. She's as mainstream as it gets from our side of the aisle. And when it comes to people outside of politics looking at her, it was universal. Highly qualified, highly competent, ready to serve this country as Social Justice of the Supreme Court. And my last thought, it's hard to be a conservative person of color. That is a very difficult road to hoe in a modern American politics. My good friend Tim Scott is a great voice for conservatism. And Tim, a lot of things said about Tim, it's said about nobody else on our side of the aisle. And he's tough, he can handle it. Same for conservative women. Judge Barrett did not abandon her faith. She embraces it, but she said, I embrace my faith, but as a judge, it will not be the rule of Amy. It will be the rule of law. It will be the facts. It will be the law, an outcome dictated by the law, not by anything I personally believe. But I will say this, for the young conservative women out there who are pro-life and embrace your faith, there's a seat at the table for you. This is historic. This nomination is different. This is a breakthrough for conservative young women. And I was honored to be the chairman of the committee that reported out Judge Barrett to the floor of the Senate. And I'm going to be honored to cast my vote to put her on the Supreme Court exactly where she deserves to be. I yield.